BJ Penn was born to fight, man. That's what that kid was put on this earth to do. If you think you can whoop his ass, he'll fight you in 2 seconds.
BJ's got heavy hands.
He fought the best. He showed up every night, fists up, ready to fight.
Between 2001 and 2014, BJ Penn was a dominant force in mixed martial arts. His nickname, the Prodigy, was well-deserved. BJ was awarded a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in 3 years, while it takes most well over a decade.
When you talk to fighters about all-time greats, there's one guy that everyone has on that list, and that guy's BJ Penn.
With no previous mixed martial arts experience, BJ entered the UFC and went on a tear, knocking out his first 3 opponents.
I'm not an athlete who did all these sports and got into fighting. I'm a fighter that tried to be an athlete.
There was a video that circulated where BJ jumped out of a pool onto the deck of the pool. That's strength, that's athleticism. He was born with it.
When fighters were looking to
视频前的你，如果在男性持久力、勃起硬度等方面不满意，现在就加郭老师微信358-163-379，让郭老师帮助你持久坚挺，延时20到40分钟，补肾壮阳，延时助勃，增强夫妻性生活，28天彻底告别快男软男，做回自信的自己。记住微信358-163-379。
Birds fly and fish swim, and I do this.
BJ Penn is the real deal. He is a born fighter.
Born and raised in Hilo, Hawaii, BJ and his brothers were competitive with each other, and they loved to fight.
Growing up in the Penn family, I got 3 brothers. Everybody beat up the one younger than them. This is how it was. My older brother would kick my butt, so might as well kick Reagan's butt.
BJ was always getting into fights. He must have been like 4 or 5 years old, and I was like in like preschool, 3 or 4 years old too. He pulled out like a 9th or 10th grader's mouthpiece for his braces, and that kid started crying, and that was one of the tougher kids in the school at that time.
When BJ Penn was coming up, he always used to wear a shirt that said, "Just scrap." Growing up in Hawaii, you have to know how to fight. You get into your scrap, the next day, you're friends again.
JD was 3 years older than him, bigger than him, faster than him. The competition with his older brother probably drove him further than I can think of any other reason.
When a neighbor of the Penn family was looking for training partners to practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, BJ tried it and immediately became hooked. His skill set quickly surpassed those he trained with, so at age 18, his parents let him move to the mainland and continue his training at Ralph Gracie's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym.
Ralph Gracie was teaching jiu-jitsu in order for people to fight.
Ralph's just like one of the most intense people you're ever gonna meet. He always has this attitude, you know, like a never say die attitude.
A lot of jiu-jitsu is made to react. You're reacting to what your opponent gives you. BJ Penn's jiu-jitsu, it's very aggressive. It's meant to finish fights.
On average, it will take an athlete 10 or more years to earn a black belt in the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Incredibly, BJ earned a legitimate black belt in just 3 short years. He is believed to be the fastest American ever to earn a black belt. This unbelievable accomplishment earned him the nickname, the Prodigy.
I feel I was on a different level competitively, and people put me on a different level. Like, they see me with the black belt, they know I got it in 3 years, but they're still seeing someone with the black belt that they think was there for 15 years. It was hard for them to grasp, I guess, at times.
In 2000, after earning his black belt, BJ entered the World Jiu-Jitsu Championship, the most prestigious Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament in the world.
I was in the final. Something just told me, once they start this match, doesn't matter if your arm breaks, your leg breaks, doesn't matter what happens. Win this, and your life's gonna be different.
Competing in the black belt division, BJ dominated his opponents, becoming the first ever non-Brazilian to win the gold medal at the World Championship.
He had to think that he could take on the world at that point because he was beating guys who had been doing this for decades.
He was the first non-Brazilian to win a black belt tournament in Brazil. I don't know, he has what, 4 years of training or 4.5 years? So that was unheard of.
Every modern-day mixed martial arts fighter has to have experience fighting professionally before they get an opportunity to enter the UFC octagon. The exception to this rule is BJ Penn. Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta were impressed with how quickly BJ earned his black belt and how he won the world championships at age 22. Knowing that BJ had no previous mixed martial arts experience, the UFC owners decided his credentials were strong enough and invited him to fight at UFC 31.
I didn't know what to expect. This is the UFC. This is the Super Bowl of mixed martial arts.
We had hired Joe Silva to be the matchmaker after we bought the company. And Joe's a very opinionated guy. And Joe's like, yeah, I know who he is, but he's never had a fight in MMA. I mean, we can't bring him in the UFC. And me and Dana said, you know what? He's got something special. We want to bring him in. All I knew is that BJ Penn had come and rolled with us. He was very talented at jiu-jitsu, and we liked him, and we wanted him in the UFC.
All right, let's do this. Let's go. Come on. Here we go in the lightweight category.
I don't even know what I was thinking, but I knew how to just blast right through this guy, and I knew exactly what I had to do to make the referee pull me off this guy.
BJ Penn, impressive. Closing out round number 1 in style.
I didn't know it at the time. BJ Penn is a very special individual.
The very next month, BJ would fight again at UFC 32. He faced a much tougher opponent this time. Dean Thomas, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, was on a 7-fight winning streak.
Dean Thomas is strong. This is a strong guy. Pushed me up against the fence. I went to do some jiu-jitsu. He just stood out of it easily. I'm like, oh, what's this guy gonna do next?
Trying to work the leg. Talk about amazing right here. Look at that. With his own leg, look at the leverage that he's creating, and he's gonna start to work with the strike.
And then he threw the punch, and then I was just trying to move out of the way, land a strike, and probably try to circle out or something. And then as soon as the knee hit him,
and he's down.
He just went full on slow motion.
Dean Thomas was one of the top lightweights in the world. So when BJ beat Dean Thomas, that was a big deal.
That's how I got born as somebody people want to watch.
BJ proved he belonged in the UFC and showed everyone who doubted him that he could defeat world-class talent. He was expected to be a ground fighter, utilizing his formidable jiu-jitsu skills, but BJ surprised everyone with his heavy hands and knockout power.
When BJ Penn was in the octagon, you didn't know what you were getting.
And now he's got his back.
You didn't know whether he was going to knock you out. You didn't know whether he was going to submit you. His wrestling was underrated. He could do it all.
The easiest guy to fight is a boxer because he's going to throw 1, 2, 3. The street fighter, you don't know what he's going to do next.
At UFC 34, he was supposed to face his toughest test against #1 contender Cal Uno. BJ amazed everyone when he dispatched Uno in the fastest fight of his career. After dominating his first 3 opponents, BJ received the opportunity to fight for UFC Gold. Although he was heavily favored to win at UFC 35, lightweight champion Jens Pulver proved to be too much for him to handle.
For the winner, by majority decision, and still...
He loses. Now what? He was devastated. Everything prior to that had gone according to plan. Now the plans got changed. Is he as good as he thought he was and that everyone else thought he was?
BJ bounced back, defeating Paul Crichton via TKO and Matt Serra with a unanimous decision. He earned a second attempt at UFC Gold in a title shot against Cal Uno at UFC 41. The fight was declared a draw.
This UFC Lightweight Championship fight is considered a draw.
In combat sports, it is common for fighters to drop weight and fight in a lower weight class to gain an advantage. Vitor Belfort fought at heavyweight and dropped down to light heavyweight. Frankie Edgar fought at lightweight and dropped down to featherweight. Even though he did not fulfill his goal in the lightweight division, BJ went against the norm and moved up a weight class to fight in the stacked welterweight division.
When UFC started, it was any size, any rules, no time limit, anything. But I didn't think about it that the weight class is such an important thing to me, because it never was. It was just me and you. Who can win? I want to know. I want to figure it out.
In the UFC, you're talking 15, 20 pounds between weight classes. So that's why you don't see two division champions at the highest level.
Between 2001 and 2003, Matt Hughes was the most dominant force the UFC welterweight division had ever seen. Hughes was obliterating everything in his path and successfully defended the welterweight title 5 times. BJ wanted to test himself against the best fighters in the world and believed he could beat the unstoppable Hughes.
Dana called me and he said, I want to do this fight. BJ's asking to fight Matt Hughes. Like, you serious? He really wants to fight Matt Hughes? You understand, Matt was just dominant, strong guy, just brawling with people.
Because Matt Hughes at that time, he was destroying everybody. He was the guy that was invincible, that anybody goes against, you're always going to say, oh, they're going to lose. There's no way they're going to beat Matt Hughes.
In wrestling, you don't go up in weight. And BJ was coming from 55 to 170. I thought I was going to grab him, I was going to pick him up, put him on a finger, twirl him like a basketball, throw him down, and finish him anytime I want.
Hughes trying to set a UFC record with a 6th title defense.
I always feel like if you tell me I can't do something, then it's guaranteed going to be done.
He was more than I expected. BJ had him a hold of my feet. He slid him to the side, came down, and threw a big punch.
Oh!
He dazed me so good with that punch that I went straight into wrestling mode, kind of turned my back. He threw the hooks in and was able to get his choke.
Hughes acknowledges it's the punch that hurt him. It's actually a technique that I feel I made up. It was when the guy would put his feet on your hips, you push his feet to the side and you kind of pivot your hips. I knew that was a very vicious move, and the guy's head stuck right on the ground. When he tapped, it felt fake. Here he is, the toughest guy in the world, like, he can't be tapping. I didn't even know how to act because it was just like, wait, I knew I was gonna beat you. This can't be.
The new undisputed UFC welterweight champion of the world, Bj Penn.
Can you believe what you just did?
Yeah, but when you work so hard for something and then you finally get down it. As soon as I got the world championship, first thing I said was like, I'm not gonna take it off ever, you know what I mean? But after you beat Matt Hughes, what the fuck is there to do? I honestly wonder if that was the last time I actually fought, where my life depended on it.
After winning the UFC welterweight title at UFC 46, BJ vacated it by signing a contract to fight with the K1 organization. Matt Hughes once again regained the UFC welterweight crown. 2 years later, a heartbreaking split decision loss to George St. Pierre at UFC 58 spoiled BJ's return to the organization. St. Pierre was now scheduled to fight Matt Hughes for the welterweight title, but was sidelined due to injury. Without hesitation, BJ took his place.
If I could redeem one fight, one loss, it would be against BJ, the guy who took my belt. This was going to be a big fight for me.
After the fight, Dana White calls me. He goes, BJ, you're a effing superstar. That was the greatest fight I ever saw. I had submissions.
He's trying to omoplata on Matt's right arm.
It had back and forth. They were punching each other, or takedowns, and then it had a finish. You can't ask for something better.
I can remember having BJ in that crucifix, and I'm sitting there hitting his head. Big John steps in, stops the fight, and I beat BJ Penn.
After consecutive losses in the welterweight division, Lorenzo Fertitta and Dana White tried to convince BJ that the lightweight division was where he could truly leave his mark on the sport.
We said, look, for you to become a legend, it's not going to be stepping up in weight and fighting a Lyoto Machida or fighting somebody bigger than you or doing all these other things. Focus on the 155-pound division and clean it out.
BJ returns to the lightweight division. He signs on to coach Season 5 of The Ultimate Fighter, opposite rival Jens Pulver. When the season finishes, BJ knows he will get a chance to avenge his lightweight title loss against Pulver.
He was on a mission, and his mission was to beat Jens Pulver.
This is how I train for Jens Pulver. What's up, Jens?
He had to prove, not to the UFC or anybody else, he had to prove himself, I'm going to kick his butt. And I'm going to make sure he knows.
When I got the mount on him, I remember thinking, no, here it is. All the times you talked and all the stuff you said, I'm going to make you pay for this, you know?
For the people outside of the hardcore fan base to get involved, you've got to have a star. You've got to have someone that people could look at and say, oh yeah, I'm home on Saturday night to see that guy. BJ Penn was that guy. He made people care about the lightweight division.
And when he came out and just started steamrolling everybody, you know, BJ Penn took off and became a huge star for us.
It wasn't something that BJ decided I wanted to be a superstar. People love him. They love him what he says. They believe in him being a true fighter.
BJ's popularity was at an all-time high, and the UFC wanted to take their superstar global. With his sights set on winning the UFC lightweight title, BJ agreed to fight Joe Stevenson at UFC 80 in Newcastle, England. BJ was looking to become only the second fighter in UFC history to hold belts in 2 different weight classes.
I just went out there and just let my technique and everything just beat him.
And he gets some big strikes delivered early.
This is how good I am. Here you go.
It is all over. BJ Penn is the UFC lightweight champion.
2 division, that puts you in the history books forever. To get that lightweight title, that was his own mark in his own history book.
I knew it was important to get that other title in another division.
He became only the second of 2 guys who have won titles in 2 divisions in the UFC.
Number 2! Number
2! He's as legit and as badass and as real a fighter as you will ever meet in your life.
He wanted to be one of the greats. He wanted to be in the history books as one of the best to ever compete in the octagon.
You couldn't think of a more qualified fighter to enter into the UFC Hall of Fame than BJ Penn. BJ Penn will go down in history as, without a doubt, one of the greatest of all time.
Not only did he transcend the sport and what happened in the octagon, he had an attitude that no one else had.
Everything to me was being the champion, being the toughest guy on the planet. I'm just not used to getting accolades without being the toughest guy, because I'm used to stuff getting taken away from you if you're not the toughest guy. So now, with the Hall of Fame, what a way to go out. I've always had a controversial career. Critics and fans ask me all the time, BJ, do you think you did enough with the talent you had? To them I answer, no, I didn't do enough. I did way too much, more than I ever wanted to do.
He brought something that no one had ever seen before. People will be talking about BJ Penn in 100 years.
It's hard to let go, man. It's freaking hard. I always wonder, what if I could be the champ again? Oh man, there's nothing better than being the toughest guy in the world.